live stream. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Monero Coffee Chat. The theme of this episode today is technical difficulties. If you can tell, we are screen capturing on Google Hangouts. We're not using Jitsi, or we're not even screen capturing Jitsi, so you can see this is like our fifth backup here. So, we're still here to talk to you and to hopefully have a reasonably good enough time. If there are other technical difficulties, please let me know by commenting, in the video. Hopefully you're able to get a reasonable stream through here.
Is this thing going? I'm not seeing anything on YouTube.
It should be. I'm sending data and I clicked the start streaming button.
Well, the YouTube channel seems... There's nothing happening there. I'm looking at it.
The theme continues.
If anybody, the issue is nobody is able to tell us that we have technical difficulties because they didn't hear us tell them to tell us. Like, what are we going to do if we don't get messages that they don't see this?
Yeah, I actually don't even...
Imagine if we just done the whole episode.
It is technically set to stream.
Just the blooper reel of...
Are you streaming to a different endpoint, like a previous coffee chat or something?
No, it's set and it is receiving data. It says it's not receiving good data, but I can't help it if everything is.
Okay, figure this out. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm sorry, everybody.
Not a problem, dude. You're the only one who's actually working on this, so, we should apologize to you.
Anyone can complain. Sorry. Test. Maybe. Okay. Oh. Hello, test. Screen capturing Jitsi, so you can see this is like our fifth reasonably good enough time. Okay, it's going through. Please let me know.
Time travel.
It's
Just comment from YouTube.
Okay, so they should be receiving data now. We are live to some extent. No one can see my face because Google Hangouts really loves eating. Oh yes, it's reasonably going through now. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
Again, to restart for like the fifth time.
Sorry guys for the technical difficulties.
Thank you everyone for joining this month's coffee chat. We went through hell to get this to go through, but we are on now. So the video should be working now. I restarted the video. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. We have a crowd on today to help answer questions about what's going on with the upcoming Monero update. We're here to answer other questions in the chat as they come across. So we appreciate you joining us all today in a very Monero episode fashion. So introductions, as always, we have some new faces with us today. So there's me, Justin. You can't see me because Google Hangouts really loves to use the CPU when they share webcam. So you can't see my webcam while I live stream, but I'm here. And then we have other people on today. Need Money 90, can you introduce yourself for everyone, please?
Your stream is focused on my video right now. Can you set it to, everybody's?
It's set
Not that I don't like that. Is it? I mean, it was only showing mine. Okay.
There we go.
Can
you introduce yourself then? That's a title.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Need Money 90. I am a moderator in the community, and I do various things, including coordination of who gets what information and I guess what policies for the subreddit and our other chat mediums.
Awesome. Nice to have you on again. Lee, can you introduce yourself to us, please?
Yes, so I'm Lee. On the forums and GitHub by VT Nerd. So I've been a contributor for actually, it's just about almost 3 years to the date now. So yeah, I'm trying to finish up a lot of stuff before the next release, basically.
Lee, you
Co-contributor. I
are
guess I didn't. What was that?
you are lagging slightly with your voice. I'm not sure what the issue is.
It's probably everything about my setup. My ISP over here isn't very great, so I've got to work with them on that.
Well, we really appreciate having you on, Lee. I think this is your first coffee chat, correct?
Yep. This is why I had to like put together a setup like, real quick, but I think it worked.
Nice to have you on, Lee. Tanner, can you introduce yourself, please?
How's it going, guys? I'm Tanner. I am currently the Cake Wallet developer for the iOS. I wanted to share with you guys real quick a new milestone that we crossed today. We now have 20,000 unique Apple IDs that have downloaded Cake Wallet from the App Store. So it's kind of cool that we could celebrate that today.
Excellent. Nice to have you and Cake Wallet represented here. Scott, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yep, I'm Scott. I do kind of Japanese translation maintenance work and random stuff with DEF CON, more or less.
Very nice. I just want to quickly state, Lee, we're getting some feedback from you, so if you can mute yourself.
I know. Sorry. This headset sucks.
Okay, Diego, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hey everybody, I'm Diego and I'm speaking quietly because otherwise my audio clips, and you may notice I am absent. My really nice microphone that I always use in Google Hangouts isn't letting me use it, so I'm really sad. So that's the other reason my voice is so downtrodden. I do UX work for Monero and website stuff, and I do quite a few other things. If you really want to know, you can talk to me and I'll reveal them one by one to you as I slowly gain trust or lose it.
Cheer up. We'll host a server and figure everything out. I want to figure out this Google Hangouts thing. So afterwards, Justin, let's try and figure out how to host a server for these coffee chats so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I agree. We really should have our own hosted Jitsi instance. We've kind of been talking about it, but there's an extra step to do the live stream portion, so that's always been a hurdle that's been intimidating for me.
Let's look into it.
Okay.
I'm happy to work with you guys on that. You guys know I have a really robust network, so.
That actually might be a great idea.
Oh, look at this guy over here.
I'll have my people contact you.
Okay, so what is going on then in the Monero community? I want to originally point out that one of the main Monero contributors that's made his name all over the place is Ercicione. He's been doing a lot of website work. So if you're not following the GitLab website, I know if you're sort of on the GitHub space where you're paying attention to Monero developments there, but you're not paying attention to the GitLab developments on the Monero website, definitely take a look there because there are a lot of changes that they're doing to help improve the experience for everyone. So, and that's a really easy way for people to contribute, even if they aren't, natural developers. There's many ways you can improve documentation and other things. So I just wanted to quickly point that out. That's really cool. Lee, of course, I want you to talk about some of the networking things that you've recently done with Monero to get ready for this update that's coming out. Need money. I'd love to hear about some of the trolls you recently banned. I don't know. Just want to get this conversation started. How about I kick it off with you, Lee? Can you actually, I know the audience probably has many questions about what updates are coming with regard to networking. Can you, on a pretty high level, discuss what approach you've taken to get the Monero client ready there?
Yeah, so I honestly am going to have trouble remembering what we did in the last release because I work on the development area so much I don't even remember what's in the releases sometimes. So I think in the last release we actually added Tor support in the wallet, for instance, and we also started adding some limited support for Tor, connecting, having Monero D connect to Tor or 2P. I think 2P was also high on the community's wish list, I guess you would say. So for the next release, we now have a method already for broadcasting transactions over I2P or Tor. I guess catchers, we have to figure out how to get seed nodes for these hidden services. So that's sort of what we're working with. I think some of the GUI developers, and I mean, there's a whole lot of people that I think they're going to have to work on that. The part that I'm sort of trying to get through Monero, who just did a very good review yesterday, was these weird mempool interactions. So this sort of relates to a bunch of Dandelion++ stuff, which I'll get to in a second. Basically, when you're broadcasting transactions over Tor I2P, you don't want to inadvertently leak to someone that you know about the transaction before it even got to the other side. So it's kind of funky.
Really quick, can you turn off your video and see if that improves your voice quality?
No
Because
problem.
it's currently frozen in one frame, and I think that might be preferable. Let's see if that helps.
Okay. Is this any better?
No, not really.
Oh man.
I just did it that way though.
You know, I can call the phone number if it helps.
Oh yes, that would actually help significantly.
Might reveal your phone.
Oh,
To everyone? Oh, good lord.
It might reveal the phone number to me, which is screen captured and live streamed. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah. I'm.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not interested in quite that level. I mean, they won't get anything from it, but even if I get sim jacked for nothing, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. Yeah, I'll have to get figure out a better internet situation. You know, hold on. Let me turn off my Yeah. Hold on. Let me try something real quick. I'm gonna stop my poor Monero.
He's shutting down the Monero network to participate in this coffee chat today. What dedication. All right, so in the meantime, while Lee is working on his network connection, Diego, what have you been working on?
What have I been working on these days? Well, for those of you who don't know, Monero is going to have a presence once again at C3, the Chaos something Congress. I never remember what they call it. It's a name that only nerds could have come up with. But it takes place December 26th through the 30th, so kind of right in between Christmas and New Year's. It takes place in Germany, and it's the biggest hacker conference of Europe, very artistically focused. I'm sorry?
Lee, can you mute real quick?
Oh, okay. I think he's doing other things.
Okay, yeah,
But I was recently at the HTTP conference in Prague, and we had a preliminary meeting there, and we just had our first IRC meeting this past week, and we're going to be moving to weekly meetings to get that up and off the ground. The last year was really, really cool, and this year I think has potential to be slightly bigger. I know that every year people are like, and we're trying to be bigger and better this year. We're trying to be slightly bigger. So that's one thing that I've been working on. I have a couple of secret projects that will be revealed here fairly soon. Probably I would say within a month that I've been working on for Monero. So be looking forward to that. Consider this a pre-announcement. And lastly, what have I been doing? No, the Prague travel really took a lot of time, and it took a couple of days to recuperate. So I hate traveling. If you like to travel, you're a strange person. Traveling sucks. It's just the worst. But yeah, so That's me.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Diego, for that update. I look forward to seeing what you can pull out of your hat, in the next month or so, as you said. So we're all really excited. Lee, do you want to give it another shot? I muted you though, so if you can unmute yourself when you're ready to talk.
Okay. Yeah, the 37-day uptime that's down the drain. So we're in the middle of trying to figure out how at least the code patch that I have up now. The concern is, let me start my video because maybe that'll help you guys. The concern is how do we not inadvertently leak that you're the origin of a transaction? Because there's all kind of ways, for instance, that you can unintentionally tell people that you're the origin of the transaction. So as an example, if you try broadcasting it over Tor, but you have a public RPC for some reason, you're going to effectively leak that you know about the transaction before it even went to the other Tor side. So there's all kind of funky stuff like that. The Dandelion++ developers recommended a separate mempool. So that's effectively what I had to try to implement, which is a pretty big undertaking because you had to go through all the code base such that, like, even if you're mining a block, for instance, you don't want to inadvertently post that you know about your own transaction before you see someone else tell you about it on the network. So there's all kind of like really funky interactions like that. So we've probably got most of that, or I have most of that situated. There may be issues that come up later on during auditing, but probably got most of that. Simultaneously, I thought about Dandelion++. Sarang hit me up with this, launched me with this when I met him in Stanford way back when. So we were actually really close to getting Dandelion++ for ClearNet as well. I don't want to give any timelines, but it's actually, I don't want to say easy, but I did all the hard work in thinking about how it was going to be shoved in there in these past two go around. So that sort of delayed things, unfortunately. But the positive news is, the positive news is that it should be fairly close. The other interesting part is that none of these features require a hard fork. So if we have to then sort of make updates or changes, we don't have to worry about it as much. The last sort of bits, the community seems to want everything over Tor I2P, and we've got just kind of funky for various reasons. The big blocker is going to be Unbound and a couple other issues. For the time being, the recommended mode would probably be like do your block syncing over the public ClearNet and do transaction broadcasting over Tor I2P. Not everyone is going to run in that mode for various reasons, but that's probably the recommended. This won't blow up probably method. So hopefully we'll get a lot of that out pretty quickly. Like I said, I think the one that's unclear at this point is whether Dandelion++ gets in the next release. The harder part is probably going to be testing and reviewing more so than completing the code before the release. And so I'm actually not sure whether we'll be able. I don't know. It's going to be. It's doable, but even if we had to do it in a point release, it's not terrible because, like I said, it's nothing on chain that requires a hard fork. It's simply networking changes that can be implemented at any time.
And to clarify, Lee, are you able to, when you're talking about Dandelion++, you're talking in the context of both ClearNet and Tor I2P, correct? You would use Dandelion for both cases.
Right. So I guess I need to be very clear on that. My current recommendation is that we use Dandelion+. I'm implementing it so that you can use it over either network. I think currently it's going to be coded so that it's only going to be used over ClearNet and then Tor I2P because it's sort of funky. Like Dandelion++ was almost designed to mitigate the issues of not having Tor I2P, if that makes any sense. So it's not clear in the end whether I want to use it, but if you looked at my talk, I took some ideas from Dandelion++ because I realized you have to alter how you're broadcasting transactions. So for instance, if if you have a hidden service over Tor I2P, which is nice because you're accepting inbound connections and therefore allowing others to relay transactions through you, you never want to send your own transaction through those incoming links because then they know that this hidden service broadcast it. So there's all kind of funky stuff like that where I actually had to identify what Dandelion++ was doing and sort of fill in the gaps for what for Tor and I2P we're doing. So it's coded so that will work with either, but it'll only be enabled for the public networks because it's not clear that we need Dandelion++ over Tor I2P because that's kind of what Tor and I2P were designed for. So the way it'll be interesting is the way it's going to work is if you use Tor I2P, it's going to bounce to some other hidden service. Once it hits that hidden service, it's then going to use Dandelion++, then and then it's going to go, and then after that it gets spread. So you actually, I don't know, that's kind of the way I coded up. I don't know if it's the best way, but I thought it was the most interesting way because not only does it bounce to a hidden service, but once it hits a hidden service, it then uses the technique designed for Bitcoin as well, Dandelion++. This will also be kind of interesting because it'll just be kind of interesting because like if you're accepting inbound Tor IPP connections, if for some reason you don't want to broadcast your own transactions over Tor ITP, I'm not really sure why you would do that. You wouldn't want to do that, but it was kind of interesting because you're now mixing other people's transactions with your own, and you're only sending out over Dandelion over the public network. So there's kind of there's a lot of different factors there, but the summary is if you're not using Tor or I2P, it will use eventually in the near future. It'll use Dandelion++. If you enable Tor I2P, it will then send it out to a hidden service, and that hidden service, well, we can't really force them, but ideally if they're running a correct Monero implementation, it's then forwarding it over Dandelion++ as well. Did you follow that or?
Yeah, it makes sense. Starting with the ClearNet, I think that obviously makes a lot of sense because Dandelion helps mitigate a lot of the networking concerns, especially when not using Tor or I2P. So that's really cool.
Yeah, correct. I mean, and maybe with the research lab, we change it. What's convenient about this, like I said, there's no hard fork necessary. So they could literally say in the middle, we got to do a point release or something, and there's really or someone could tweak it on their own if they want to do it at home. But it's just that Dandelion++ was designed to get around the limitations of not using Tor I2P, basically. So it's not clear that you want to use strictly that protocol over those other, because you're kind of like having like multiple overlay networks at that point. But if you look at the code, it's so similar to what I'm doing that it actually shares the same code, which might confuse people a bit. But that's another another story. But that's kind of like with the reworking part. I had to like rework so that both were sharing the same code base. So yeah, hopefully that works out.
Awesomely, it's great to hear. Okay, Scott, what have you been working on past few months?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been doing anything specifically Monero related. I've been doing kind of other random open source projects. If you happen to use, I guess, quick plug into other open source projects, if you happen to use OpenWRT, which is a basically FOSS for routers, which is very cool. I submitted a suggestion to the mailing list to get them to basically use WebLate for translation work. So it is much easier to submit basically translations to WebWRT right now. And so that's what I've been doing the past couple of weeks, has been working on the Japanese localization there. But it's worth highlighting that the Monero translations, which I'll be doing this weekend since no one's done them yet, those close on October 24th for in terms of like the translation string freeze. So if you want to contribute translation work, make sure you basically do it this weekend before it gets locked down on the 24th. So
very cool. And so recently, this is tangentially related to the Monero community. Many Monero meetups use meetup.com, and I saw that you were pointing people to new open source alternatives that aren't charging users to, going forward to RSVP to events. Can you talk about some of these and what the sort of meetup space is in open source?
I mean, it's been a while since I've done research into it. I've been following a project, which is the one that you're referencing on Twitter, called Mobilizion, which is by a French-based company that's done a decent amount of work creating kind of like a Google productivity suite equivalent, but everything is FOSS. So like I initially found them looking for like a Google Forms open source equivalent. The downside is like a lot of their website and documentation is in French, by nature of being based in France. Yeah, so the particular project Mobilizion, they did a Kickstarter of sorts, raised, I think it was like roughly 50,000 euro sometime around June-ish. They've been working on basically getting what amounts to a federated version of Meetup. So if you're not familiar with federated, what it means, it's if you use Matrix, it's essentially what Matrix is, but for Meetup in this case, which is anyone can spin up essentially a server that's part of a network, similar to how you would spin up a node in Monero. So people, they can create their own server. There's some other cool quirks with it, like unlike Meetup, you can basically have a unique identity for each group, so that no one knows. Basically, if you're part of the cycling club and then you're also part of the cryptocurrency club, there's not really a way to link your identity across groups if you're so inclined. So the first beta is supposed to come out sometime October, which it sounded like their last post from September, they were still on track for that. But yeah, so if you're interested in Meetup, because Meetup's monetary policy is apparently kind of becoming crap, because there's a lot of people complaining on Twitter, which is why I posted my comment on Twitter, suggesting people check it out. Hopefully they release by the end of this month, and maybe we as a Monero community can start experimenting with, someone, maybe not necessarily on the Get Monero domain, but launch our own federated instance and tinker around with that. So it's pretty exciting to have that. Just have a FOSS solution for meetups that's also like super privacy minded. The whole identity thing I think is really cool.
Very cool, Scott. You're always a great reference to look at other open source projects. It's good to know what is out there, in order to improve Monero and, of course, to improve other projects too. Everyone can benefit from them. Okay, Tanner, I'm going to switch to you. Can you tell me a bit about your background? Like, do you have a cryptocurrency background? What got you into Cake Wallet? What got you into the whole Monero ecosystem? And then what are you working on for them?
So I've been working. I've been writing code for a long time. I'm self-taught. I launched an iPhone and a Mac app in high school. Went to college and didn't really pursue that as much. Objective-C kind of pissed me off, and I don't know. It just shifting to college was kind of a different mindset for me. And it was actually through my friends and the hype of 2017 that I really became convinced that cryptocurrency was something that was going to be more than just sort of a niche thing that developers knew about. And that is when I really started investigating, Monero and understanding the community. And after graduating, I got a job with an asset management company writing Swift code on Linux pretty much day in, day out. And when Vic contacted me in August, looking for someone to bring onto the team, that skill set really just aligned really well with what they're looking for. And I thought it was a really good opportunity for me to take something that I became really passionate about in college and be able to sort of contribute given my skill set, because there's not a ton of opportunities to write Swift code for the Monero community, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. So that's a brief background of sort of my story.
That's really cool, Tanner. What are you working on with them generally with Cake Wallet, and when did you start?
So I started in early August, I believe. Vaguely, we started talking, and it actually took a few weeks for my development work to actually start. So I believe it began in early August. The first features that I really started implementing were just a big cleanup around the differentiation in unlocked versus locked, or unlocked versus spendable funds. That there was some code built out for that, but it was kind of hidden. The tap targets to expose or toggle between those two values was really hidden, and there was just a lot of inconsistencies there in the code. And so I cleaned that up a lot, made that more discoverable, and then implemented a time estimator so that users would know how long they'd have to wait for their funds to become unlocked. And then since then, most of my time has actually been spent battling UIKit, trying to get dark mode implemented for iOS 13. Obviously, I have quite a familiar background with the Swift standard library and whatnot, but UIKit hadn't been something that I had worked with for a few years, and so sort of reacquainting myself with the interesting design choices of that API has been a battle for me, but we're pretty much on the other side at this point, and looking forward now to implementing some new things down the road, like more coins on the Change Now exchange, for example.
Very, very cool. It will be interesting to see how that feature is built out. Thanks for joining us, Tanner. We're really glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Howard, you joined us. You are you still there? And then can you give a quick introduction to everyone here who, for some reason, have never heard of you before? You are muted, though. You are still muted. Like it says that Hangouts has you muted.
People want to hear about RandomX. Come on.
Yeah, are you on a phone right now? I think he's on a phone. The swaying of the camera gives it away.
Yeah, it says
Still
you're
muted.
Yeah, it says you're still muted, unfortunately.
And
I'm pretty sure it's not my fault.
I guess we can just see your beautiful face, and that's all.
Yeah, I can't unmute you, unfortunately.
That would be kind of like...
Bad.
There'd be serious privacy and legal issues with doing that.
But think of the convenience. Okay, so Howard will probably keep battling with this for a little bit. But we had another person join. XXXX. This is obviously a very real Google person last name. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm XX. No, I'm not.
Oh, DSC, what up?
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Yeah, I joined because there were so many cool people here. So.
Hey. Good. Yeah,
oh, hey. Figured I should stop by.
Looks like Howard managed to get his mute working.
Yes, he did.
Finally.
Yeah. Okay, finally. Gang's all here. Well, other than Diego. Diego, by the way, guys, his internet died. He sent me a message on his phone.
Yeah.
Over LTE, but yeah, he's having some issues. This is just like one issue after another.
So keep on going anyway.
DSC, is there anything that you wanted to mention during the chat before I talk about RandomX? Because I'm sure that'll take a little bit of time.
Yeah, sure. I'm working on a new Monero wallet, and I just wanted to paste an image into the chat. That's about it. So please do continue.
Did you paste the image into the Hangouts chat here?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I won't be able to, I think.
Okay. If you want to like put it on Imgur or something and then put it on YouTube for people to see, that would work too. But I am currently screen capturing with this, so you're all going to see my mouse and things as I maneuver around if we wanted to do it that way. But yeah,
All right.
it'd be really cool. I think it's really interesting to see that you're working on a new wallet, and I think most people weren't aware that you're working on a new wallet besides the Monero GUI. So I think that's really cool, and I think I'd love to see some images of it.
Yeah, I'll keep working on the GUI, but I also think that we could maybe use a more simple wallet that's better to or like easier to maintain, and has less graphical like components and stuff. Just looks very easy. It looks like a native application.
When's the GUI coming out?
I don't know, with the hard fork probably. Oh, you mean the new wallet? Well, in a couple of months. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm anxiously awaiting. What is this, just on desktop, or is it supposed to be cross-platform too?
It's cross-platform on desktop, so it's Linux and Mac. I'm gonna ignore Windows for a while because I really don't like having to deploy on Windows, but eventually it'll be supported for Windows as well.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Can you share a GitHub or GitLab or something link, or is that not remotely ready yet?
It's not ready yet, so I'm just like I've been working on it for 3 months or something, just being quiet about it and not really announcing it. But it's kind of finished already. Actually, I just need to like make a website and make a Git repository and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just starting to like publicly make it known that it exists right now. So you'll see it eventually.
Very, very cool. Yeah, that's really, really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the code and seeing screenshots and seeing it so I can test it out. I'm really, really excited here.
Yeah, it's based on C++. It's only C++. It looks like Electron, like Bitcoin Electron. But it's not a fork. It's actually coded from scratch. It also has built-in Tor. It has built-in xmr.to, which is something that I can't do for the for the GUI because xmr.to is a third-party thing, and the GUI should be like neutral, so it can't have third-party services. So this wallet for me is like an opportunity to code all kinds of services into it that I can't do with the GUI, basically. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
Awesome. Thank you, TSD. It was great to hear you checking in. All right. Unless there are any other questions in related to the wallet, other than we really just want to see it.
Yeah, Diego's back too.
Oh yeah.
Hey guys.
Wow, we really have we have 8 people on right now.
Yeah, this is getting pretty crowded.
Yeah.
It's better than one person monologuing, which has happened.
Hey, yeah, I did that a couple of different times when nobody showed up.
Dude, I'm here for you now. It's okay. I wasn't here for you before, but I am now.
Yeah, most of those times you were sleeping. Anyway, I have.
Too early. We need to have this thing later in the day so that I'm like not asleep.
If there's no other topics of conversation, I can bring up a topic of conversation.
We're going to move on to Howard real quick, and then we can get back to me if you'd like.
By all means.
Diego trying to steal the spotlight as always.
Exactly. He's just trying to promote his alternative mining algorithm, I'm sure. Trying to fork Monero. Okay, Howard. Big news coming up. The biggest update to Monero by far, in a month or so, is for RandomX. So I'm sure most people here have heard of RandomX before, but some really quick overview on what is it, and then what are some of the recent things that are going on with it? What are the things that still need to be done to make it fully implemented for this update. I can't hear you.
Yeah, Howard, you're muted. Looks like
Yeah.
somehow.
So I can. It doesn't say you're muted on hang. Oh, try again. Okay, I hear the touches on the phone.
Yep.
There you
Is
go.
that it?
There it is. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. So, RandomX is the new mining algorithm we've been working on for over the past year and a half at least. It's, as the name kind of implies, it's based on randomized code execution. And the rationale is, the ASICs are optimized for executing a single operation, a single algorithm. They're single purpose and fixed function. And when you force them to perform multiple arbitrary operations, then they need to become just as generalized as standard CPUs. And once they do that, then they have all of the same performance constraints as regular CPUs. So this is our way of eliminating ASIC's efficiency advantage over CPUs. Is that clear?
I think so. If it's not clear, please leave a comment in chat and we'll be able to work around with it. So we had a question that comes in, a very simple one. Is it possible to mine in a pool with RandomX? And his audio cut out again, but the answer is yes.
But Howard, people on Twitter don't think RandomX will be good. What do you say about that?
People on Twitter don't know what they're talking about.
I just wanted to say the answer was solo mining anyway.
Well, 1 million people on Twitter just can't be wrong.
RandomX doesn't affect whether pool mining works or not. I mean, that's kind of orthogonal. So,
I guess my question is, how will mining over a phone, even if undesirable, will it be possible?
It's entirely possible, yeah. And while you won't be getting, record-breaking hash rates, you do get record-breaking efficiency. Like on my phone, which has a 3-year-old CPU, it's getting the same or better efficiency as the latest AMD Ryzen processor. I'm only getting 300 some
CPU though. Those are created to have low joules per cycle, right? Versus desktop CPUs that have higher TDP.
Sure, but even desktops are moving towards higher efficiency these days, right? And the Ryzen 3600 is actually in a pretty good sweet spot as far as efficiency for hash per watt. But definitely, phone CPUs are more optimized for power efficiency than desktop CPUs, obviously.
Not optimized enough. I only get like a few hours of on time. Anyway, so that's really cool. Yeah, I think we're all really excited to see how RandomX will go. I know there has been a lot of topic both in the Monero community and outside of the Monero community. Everyone has their hot take on how this will go. In terms of getting everything packaged for the update, as far as ecosystem adoption, what things still need to be done? Do pools still need to upgrade? Do mining software still need to be updated for users to be able to mine it? What's really needed for the ecosystem to actually make the switch next month?
I think from the software change side, everything is in place. So it's just a matter of people installing the latest revisions of whatever they're using. The XMRig miner has had RandomX support for several months now because other coins like Monero and Loki had already deployed RandomX months ago. Right. So so the miners
support is in place.
What's that? The miner's already ready to go. I think there's already active pools out there that support RandomX.
Fantastic.
So all of this, there is a mining pool for RandomX on the testnet right now. So all of that stuff is working, has been working for a while.
Very, very exciting. Are there any other things that you want to get across with RandomX, or any other questions that people have, including in chat?
Yeah, are there any questions out there on the chat?
Currently none, but I guess we can thank Monero for just going forward with some take it to prod mentalities, and we can benefit from that in some capacity.
Definitely, yeah. And well, the interesting thing is, we uncovered some problems on the RandomX testnet that none of the Monero or Loki chain guys ever encountered, which is interesting too. So our testing has been pretty thorough. We've tested reorgs, 51% attacks, and all kinds of other scenarios against it, and things are holding up really well. So it all looks good.
By saying we tested, can you speak a little bit more about who was involved in the testing process and how you came up with the plan?
Well, there's probably a half dozen or so active regular people on the Monero POW IRC channel, and we basically coordinated the testing there. I set up a testnet node several months ago and announced its address on IRC, and other people started connecting to it, and basically people just started firing up miners and doing whatever strange scenarios they could come up with. One of the obvious things was to test selfish mining or private mining, where somebody would build up a long alternate chain in secret or in private, and then publish it all at once to the more public testnet, and we would see how the testnet would react. Whether the chain would be accepted, whether rollbacks would be handled properly, all of that. So we put a lot of stuff through its paces, and we actually found a lot of bugs in the Monero code base in the process. We found bugs in the recent changes to the peer-to-peer protocol. We found bugs in the SSL support and other strange things. So it's been quite an enlightening process over the past few months.
Sounds illuminating.
Definitely.
So would you say that those bugs are what would be some examples of things that you found? And I'm talking about for the reorgs and stuff. Didn't you do a super long reorg recently, or is that still happening?
That's probably still happening.
To be clear, really quick for viewers, this is not on Monero main chain reorg. We're not having Howard going back.
Yes, this is testnet.
This is testnet. That's
just
right.
To be really, really clear for anyone who might not have put that together.
Yeah, all of this is on testnet. So we can go crazy and try and destroy it as best we can, and that's what it's for. So so we did very large chains to do very large rollbacks, just to see what would happen. And in the early days, that would hose the daemon or something, and so we found a lot of bugs with how we generate the cache for the RandomX algorithm, and all of these bugs got revealed and fixed along the way. Cool.
Any other questions for RandomX and Howard, or should we move on to Diego's really interesting topic that he wanted to get out?
I've already pestered them on the POW channel on IRC constantly with all of my questions, so I've kind of exhausted them.
Yeah, let's go back to Diego.
My thing is I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't call it a super interesting topic of conversation. It's more kind of like the plumbing thing. Monero has, in the past 2 or 3 years, spent considerable effort, time, and money in the sphere of events, particularly presences at things like DEF CON, which a good amount of money was spent 2 years ago and this past year, and C3, which the same can be said for both last year and this year and the year prior. As well as, Justin has had a couple years ago gone on a tour to speak about Monero in different contexts across Europe, and I have also gone to different conferences both in America and abroad to speak about Monero. I guess I'm just picking people's brains here. What do we think about kind of the effectiveness of something like this? The reality is that because of Monero's funding model, which is entirely voluntary, we have great issues sometimes funding things that are very important, such as the Monero Research Lab guys, such as Monero Moo. It's sometimes comes down to the wire a little bit more than I would like in terms of dependence on whales. Do you think that freeing up money by having less important things like these conferences, one thing for discussion is if they are less important things or if they should still be held in high priority, so that money can go to these other things like the work on the coin. I would say that the conferences so far that Monero has gotten involved to are not overly scammy, or if they are, we typically get a free ride, so like other scammy projects have to pay, and Monero gets a free booth or table. So it's almost like the scammy projects are paying for us to go and spread the real word. And every single conference that I've gone to where I've sat at a booth or I've presented, I've had many, many, many good conversations, made a few different converts, not just to Monero, but to kind of privacy-oriented things. But I just want to get the community's feel for this, like, especially if you have never gone to one of these conferences, but you have either given money or seen money being given. Like, do you feel like there's a change? Do you feel like they're effective? Do you feel like it's kind of just a waste and we're throwing our money down the tubes to pay for somebody's flight and hotel to go out there? What are the people's thoughts?
So something that actually we haven't really discussed this a ton in public. This has happened in back channels. We have an offer from Kraken where we can give them. They are piloting a referral link program, which we generally think is pretty shady. We don't like referral links in general, and they offered to give us a referral link for the community in general, quote unquote. And if people use that to sign up for Kraken, a percentage of trading fees would actually be able to be donated somewhere. We've had a number of concerns along those lines, involving, number one, the custodian for the funds needs to be KYC'd, and I believe they might need to be in the US, so I don't think Fluffy can do it. And then there's other issues like we think that referral links are shady, so we're not sure we want to promote that. Another thing, can we really say that the r/Monero community on Reddit represents Monero? Another one, how can we say that we're distributing the funds according to the community's will if it's not the community distributing it? It's a bit more centralized. There's just a ton of unanswered questions. But I guess I want to express the idea that there are alternative funding methods that we could use to acquire funds for recurring payments, say the MRL, etc. But I guess it needs to be discussed further. This needs to be a conversation that is had. So, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that. Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, okay. I mean, I've commented before, but I'll comment here as well. I personally think it's of value to go to the conferences just because of was it coin payments either this year? Yeah, I think it was this year or the year prior. Like you, Rayar, talked to coin payments by happenstance at one of these conferences to get them to add support for sub addresses, I believe it was, before the or some feature that was going to be basically they needed to switch to before it got deprecated in order to continue payments. And as someone who pays for digital goods and services, and one of the vendors happens to be coin payments, I was glad that someone was able to personally speak to them and get them to switch over before it was too late. I also agree with need money. I think this is something that I keep saying, but I I'm terrible actually following through on, is I think potentially like alternative payment methods to make it easy to more easy to like have people contribute financially, because I mean it's ultimately all about kind of how easy it is to donate. Like only the hardcore, arguably hardcore, are going to donate to Monero because first, they have to deposit fiat. They have to wait several days for the fiat to get, quote unquote processed at an exchange, and they convert it to Monero, and then they send it to the Monero donation address. There's a lot of like, not red tape per se, but there's just a lot of unnecessary complexity. It may be worth, in addition to like what Need Money was discussing, having conversations around that referral link, it may be worthwhile to see, and granted this would be centralized to a certain degree, like having if people are familiar with Open Collective at all, there's a couple of notable open source projects that use Open Collective. It's kind of like a FOSS-focused Patreon of sorts. But it's like the budget's more transparent in terms of when money gets withdrawn. It's, noted for what reason. So like, I'm trying to think, Cubes. I know there's a couple of big fans of Cubes that use open, that's what Cubes uses for their donation model. So it may be worth potentially trying to explore, granted to be somewhat centralized, maybe having something like Open Collective. I think Open Collective, the organization, is the group that manages the funds itself. So there's a certain degree of trust involved, but, basically people can subscribe, donate $5 a month or whatever to, quote unquote, the Monero project. And then Open Collective, maybe, I don't even know if it's possible, converts, X amount of the monthly donation themselves into Monero and sends it to the war chest or, some particular project based on, some sort of consensus voting mechanism. But anyways, yeah, I really think that we should
like
also...
a DAO?
I'm not familiar with that acronym, so... Oh, yeah, DAO, the decentralized... yeah.
Autonomous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not quite a DAO, but yeah, if you're a fan of Cubes or you use Cubes, definitely check out Open Collective to donate to, Cubes. But it's another potential alternative to check in terms of, trying to open pathways for making it easier to donate to Monero projects.
Sure, and I have actually looked at Open Collective a number of times, each time going back and forth, like, this is something we should jump on, or no, this really isn't going to work. I've kind of come to a conclusion that I think Open Collective is better for individual work groups rather than the project as a whole. I just think it's within the interests and ideals of the project to only work with Monero. Currently, Open Collective doesn't work with Monero, but I could see something like the MRL spinning up an Open Collective thing, as their own little organization. So if people want to kind of donate, whether it is anonymously or otherwise, in non-Monero ways to the Monero Research Lab, because these are people that pay their everyday bills with fiat, so accepting fiat is actually going to be easier for them. The Monero Research Lab, I think, is a great candidate for the Open Collective. Well, I don't think the Monero project itself in general is, but I appreciate the line of thinking where, okay, what are some alternative revenue sources? How can we take advantage of existing infrastructure rather than inventing our own? Or if something that we're doing is not currently working, then we shouldn't be too stubborn to not look at other alternatives that exist.
Going back to your broader topic, Diego, where you're saying, are these auxiliary expenses really incredibly important if there are other concerns with main lines of expenses, I'm going to call them, or the most important lines? And I would say, of course, the most important ones are, keeping people that are involved in the project working on it rather than going to conferences. But I would say that they still have value. Now, granted, I did receive funding to go to several of these, but for the vast majority of the ones that I went to, the community still got videos out of it, and people have watched thousands of hours of content. So, the Conferenco was really expensive, right? And we probably won't do it the same way again like we did last year. But people watched thousands of hours of that content, and we got some really great talks out of it. And it really did help bring the community together. And I know some of those things are harder to quantify, but it did have benefits to Monero beyond just someone went to a conference and talked about it. So I think that if we are really, if we indeed do find ourselves in a press situation, we just focus on, there'll be a little bit more pressure to quantify things a little bit more, and sometimes things won't necessarily be, the best thing or best use of funds. Let's say maybe we need to recruit someone who lives in Europe to go to the CCC events instead of someone from the United States, things like that. But those things take time. They're flexible, and it depends on what contributors are available to. So I agree that focus on the main expenses. Let's to need money's point. Let's try and get those covered to the largest extent that we have available to us and as possible. But also, I still think that there is reasonable value of doing the reasonable conferences that aren't completely scammy, the ones that you're able to get into, and Monero's sort of given or granted the legitimacy that it deserves.
Yeah, and I say this with the background information that I will now share with you guys, that I just opened up a CCS idea about my funding to 36C3, which is over in Germany, so it's a healthy sum in terms of flight ticket and stuff. And am I doubting my contribution last year to C3? No, I think my presence, if I may be so unhumble, I think my presence there really, really helped and was necessary to a large extent. And but that's not but that was kind of that C3 where maybe volunteers were shorthanded or whatever, and maybe some people have arisen in Europe that it would be cheaper to fly them out, and they would be able to fulfill the role just as well. I know basically, I'm trying to be both wise and cautious in not assuming my own value, while at the same time knowing what I bring to the table, but not really knowing in terms of the community thoughts whether or not what I bring to the table is worth what I'm asking for in terms of flight ticket across transatlantic flight. So that just kind of my own personal thoughts as I published that C3 CCS proposal. I guess I just wanted to open up to the broader community for.
Can we also? I think the conversation we're having in the YouTube chat right now would be also another thing to bring up right now, because that seems very topical. On the cost of villages.
Oh yeah. So to give some background, the cost of the village, that was covered a lot through merchandise sales. That was covered a lot through donations.
No, we're talking about CCC actually. Like they gave us the village there for free. There's no payment there.
Yeah, so it's something we should be taking advantage of. It just, to Diego's point, we need to be wise about how we're taking advantage of it, right? Okay, so we're over, and I think that's okay because we started really late. But I think last few questions here, last few comments on this issue. It seems like there's still topic of conversation available here. Get those out. Need money. You can't miss Vic. Like if he's going, you can't miss him, right? So,
I think if it were convenient for somebody else on the same continent, it would be better to avoid transoceanic travel for these events.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. I was thinking about that with the Conferenco, like the next Conferenco that people want to have in Europe. Should we prioritize having speakers that are from Europe, right? That way we're not paying for speakers to fly out all from the US. It doesn't make a lot of logistical sense. It's fun, but it doesn't make a lot of logistical sense. It's not efficient.
Yeah, and despite my conflict of interest having an open CCS, I both agree with you, Howard, both from a value standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint, because transatlantic flights are the absolute worst. I hate them.
I know the feeling.
So you're saying don't fund your CCS so that you don't have to do this garbage?
Unfortunately, I think we're too late in the game. I mean, if some young charismatic leader rises up within the next month or so, I think sure we can take a look at that. But we're pretty late in the game already, mid-October, nearing the end of October, and there's
We're decentralized. It'll just run itself.
C3 is almost upon us. So I think for this year, I mean, once again, speaking with the conflict of interest, I think for this year. I would recommend funding my proposal, and we can take a look for future years how we can do this better. And better might mean me not going, but it might mean I don't know. That's why I opened up this question. But yeah, we're kind of over. Justin, put an end to this madness.
I'll help you fund your thing if nobody funds it before it's over. So I'll actually donate to that one. Usually I say I just donate my time to the community, but I'll actually go and put some funds in.
Yeah, very cool. I appreciate all of you coming on today, hopping through several Jitsi rooms, several other burdensome things to make this happen. And of course, thank you for everyone who's watching online for also tolerating the same set of circumstances. So we really appreciate it. Lots of great questions today, good viewership ultimately. And we're really happy to provide this sort of monthly check-in with the Monero community. I want to end on one final note and sort of a pre-announcement really quickly. You can expect Mastering Monero to come out with a new advertising campaign that might ruffle a few feathers in the wider cryptocurrency community. So keep an eye out for that.
When can we expect this to drop? This is exciting.
Hopefully this month. We'll see. I mean, hopefully, like in a week. But I'll say conservatively, hopefully a month.
Okay, let's see.
So, not like Mastering Monero, go F yourself. Not that crazy, but like just really trying to get people to think about some of the concerns with transparent systems. And we're going to use some of the proceeds from the book to pay for that. So I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I know it was rough, but we really appreciate it. And we will catch you in the next episode. Not next episode, next coffee chat. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.